Hello everyone, good evening again, I guess. This is the second part of our little night flying video. One thing I meant to say last time that I probably should have is when you do go night flying, don't forget to double check the weather, and whatever you do, fly higher than you think you need to fly. That simply is going to give you an opportunity to go ahead and safely be able to deal with emergencies as they come up, not on top of everything else. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? So today we're going to be landing this plane. Now last time we went through how to set up all your lights and get everything looking pretty solid. Again, I've got this good. I don't even have this light on. I don't even know where this reflection's coming from. So one thing I want to point out before we get going is look at how gorgeous the world is. Now at the real world, this is literally a majestic sight to see what the night world looks like. And by the way, check this out. I can see all the way up to this airport, way off here in the distance is Bradley International Airport. I can see our destination airport. I can even see what our little lighting situation is. I can see the little flashers and everything. We're ready to rock. So what makes landing at night different than landing during the day? Well, it's basically the same, except for the fact things you can't see that you went too low for simply just kill you. You have no warning. Now, another thing that's interesting at night, and one of the reasons why I really like this airport, is this particular airport has a rule that states that if you're doing an instrument approach into it, you're not allowed to fly lower than three whites and one red. It's just an interesting way to do it. Right now, you can see I have 2 whites and 2 reds. This is actually the wrong kind of lighting system for this airport. In the real world, we get 3 whites and a red would be the correct angle at night, and 2 whites and 2 reds would be the correct angle during the day. So that's one thing you need to think about is make sure there's no different procedures. The next problem you're going to have, and this is very telling, is to see how it looks like somebody dug a hole out in the ground right here. This is what you're going to be landing on, which means it's going to be extra critical that you get your altitudes right. Remember, at night, your depth perception is terrible. You know, the human eyes just aren't good at this stuff. I mean, with a little bit of practice, you can do pretty well at it. But you have to remember that you're really going to be relying on those good instincts that you played from doing something else. Another thing you want to watch out for, make sure you're landing at the correct runway. As you can probably observe, there's a lot of lights and some of them look similar. In the real world, by the way, there's a bridge right here, and it actually has 4 red lights across it that looks exactly the same as this. So that could be another problem. But other than that, the procedure is basically the same. We do want to go ahead and flip on our landing lights. Like I said, sometimes we forget about the landing lights. Some people like to flick on their taxi light as well to kind of give them a little bit of extra illumination. Not critical, but it does work. So let's go ahead and unpause, and we'll start making our way down into our approach here. So as always, we want to make sure we're using the correct speeds. As always, we're going to make sure that we're using a proper amount of flaps and everything like that. I'm going to go ahead and make this plane a little bit dirty. And right now, I'm just looking at the end of the window and just observing the VASI right now. I can see that it's 2 reds and 2 whites, or really it's a red and a white, and I just feel like the aircraft is starting to get lower. Remember, if it's not illuminated, that means it could be something solid. So everything out there that's dark, that doesn't get in our way, could potentially be something that, like I said, we can end up running into. So you got to imagine, right where I'm pointing the nose now, could you imagine how many things could be there? In the real world, by the way, the trees at the end of the runway are significantly taller than they are here. You couldn't see the runway lights if you were to go to this low. So let's go ahead and continue our approach. Some people like to come in a little faster at night. I find if you come in a little faster, you tend to bounce. It's just going to happen. The best thing to do is to come in at the speeds that you train for, come in at the speeds recommended by that airplane. So again, you're going to get this very strange optical illusion as you start getting to the ground, especially in the real world, that basically looks like you're going to be flying into a ditch. Usually by the time you see the landing light on a little plane like this, it means you're already pretty much onto the ground. Keep in mind, because of high dynamic range and everything like that, in the real world, you can usually catch that light way sooner than you're going to catch the flight sim. Now, I notice I'm starting to get a little sinky here, so I'm just going to apply a little throttle. Also note, you can't see the end of the runway, which means there's an obstacle there. Again, you want to be very cautious about that. There's a reason why those lights are there to help you. But again, there's a reason why night procedures at this particular airport tell you not to fly that low. All right, let's get our last notch of flaps in. Go ahead and do your compass checks, make sure everything's looking good here. Be prepared to go around. Remember, is there a building on the left that we cannot see right now? Is there a building on the right that we can't see right now? Let's go ahead and pause real quickly, just to emphasize my points a little bit here. Let's go ahead and switch on my weather. Let's go ahead and change the time of day. It's going to hurt my eyes. See what I mean? In the real world, these are all tall. You can see what happens when we take those lights away immediately. All right, let's go ahead and continue. We're getting a little slow. We're just going to add a little bit of throttle and hold that steady. Again, we're not interested in landing on the end of the runway anymore. You just saw what was there, which is, again, emphasizing my point. I can't emphasize that point enough. That's where most people get goofy. All right, we're going to slow down just a tiny bit. There's the end of the runway. Again, I'm not doing anything crazy. I got 2 reds. That could be bad. Notice I can just make out the runway. In the real world, you wouldn't be able to see it until you're pretty much on top of it. At any moment, you're going to see the lights. The lights mean you have a second before you got a flare. I'm now going to gently bring the plane down. And there you have it. One of the things you'll learn is how to go ahead and make sure that when you do flare, you flare for night angle, not for day angle. You'll have to find new things in the edge of the runway to use your peripheral vision for the purposes of safely landing. So hopefully this helps you out as far as encouraging you in order to do some night flying. What we'll do next time is we'll actually do a cross-country flight where we get an opportunity to see what you'd be planning for if you were trying to do things visually. Enjoy.